Today's episode of the Bleav in Steelers podcast is brought to you by betonline.ag. In week 3, the NFL season is here, Ike. If you want to place a bet on the action, BetOnline is the place to do it.
Well, I guess I'm going to go to BetOnline and see if Big Ben is going to play this Sunday because they say he got a pec injury, the non-throwing shoulder. But I'm guessing he will play because that's a tough son of a gun. So I'm going to bet the odds that he will play.
We're going to get into this on today's episode of the Bleav in Steelers podcast, Ike. But before we do that, head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. Don't forget to use the promo code NFL100. BetOnline, your online sportsbooks experts. Today's episode of the Bleav in Steelers podcast is also brought to you by Balance 7, Ike. And Balance 7 is a nutritional supplement that helps athletes all over the world replenish and refuel. And Ike, as a former professional athlete, you know about the importance of that after a workout, after a game. Again, Balance 7 lets athletes do that really all over the world. Really happy to have them on as a sponsor of the Bleav in Steelers podcast.
Yeah, my personal opinion, in order to have a good life, you got to have some kind of balance. But you got to have balance 7, meaning you got to have balance 7 days out the week.
I see what you did there, Ike. Head to the website, balance7.com, and use promo code Bleav, that's BLEAV, and you'll get a $10 off their 32-ounce bottle. The bottle lasts for 11 days, and it's the perfect amount of time to start feeling the effects of the pH balancing drink. Again, that's balance7.com and use the promo code Bleav, BLEAV, at checkout. All right, cue the music. It's time to start the show. Welcome to another edition of the Bleav in Steelers podcast on the Bleav Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mark Bergin, joined as always by my guy, 2-time Super Bowl champion and 12-year veteran of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Ike Taylor. IT, week 3 is here. Bengals coming into Heinz Field, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've got AFC North football this weekend. I'm fired up. I'm excited. We're going to have a full preview on today's show. How are you doing this morning, my man?
I'm doing good, Mark. Can't wait to talk about these AFC North divisional games. That means a lot.
Yes, sir. And we're going to get right into it. Ben Roethlisberger showing up on the team's injury report with the pectoral injury. And I think it was interesting listening to Mike Tomlin saying the team was going to need to be adjustable. Big Ben might be limited this week in practice. We're recording this just for the listeners and viewers that know this. This episode's going to be out on Friday. We're recording this on Wednesday morning. So information can change, can be fluid. But he wasn't on the team's injury report following the week 2 loss to the Raiders. He pops up on the injury report at the start of this week. Ike, it's only through 2 weeks, and I feel like the Steelers are already dealing with injuries, mostly on the defensive side of the football. But here we go. You got to have that next man up mentality. I do expect Big Ben to play on Sunday against the Bengals, but this is something I'm going to keep my eye on.
Yeah, of course. I think Big Ben will play. And the reason why I think Big Ben will play, he don't want to go out like this. My personal opinion, I think this could be his last year. Obviously, the defense do have injuries, but they still balling out of control, so say. So Ben understands now how important defense is. You got a young Najee sitting in the backfield. Of course, he can run through the tackles. Not only he can run through the tackles, but he can also catch the ball and score touchdowns if we need him to receive the ball like he did against the Raiders on Sunday. So 7 looking at a lot of different things. Still have a young offensive line. So it's going to take some time for those guys to kind of rally around each other and kind of get everything together and be on the same page every time when it comes down to play. So we're just looking at it, man. Big Ben, from what I see, he's still having fun. You know what I'm saying? So him having fun meaning he going to find a way to get on the field. Now, did he like that 4th and 1, let's bring the special teams out and not go for a call? No, I don't think so, because I looked at his body language and he didn't like that at all. So, but other than that, just knowing how tough 7 is, man, he's going to play Sunday. They just going to do all these precautionary measures, make sure they're going to risk anything else and give him everything he needs as far as like energy and being ready for Sunday against the Bengals.
Like right off the top, I have to give a shout out to our producer, Courtney Vargas. You always refer to Big Ben as 7, and she's got that in the lower third. If you're watching the Bleav in Steelers podcast on your device right now, she's got 7 in the lower third right now. I absolutely love that. Few stats I want to get to with Big Ben, and then we'll get into the preview between the Bengals and the Steelers and some of the keys to the game. But if you look at the next gen stats, Ike, 2.41 seconds, that is the fastest release time in the NFL through the first 2 weeks of the season. So you might look at the traditional stats and say, well, Big Ben's only been sacked 4 times. This is a very young offensive line. Dan Moore, the left tackle, and then Kendrick Green are both rookies. Kendrick Green, the center, and then your left guard, Kevin Dotson's only in his second year. So this line is still gelling, still getting that continuity up front. But what I wanted to bring up, Ike, was this. We talk about establishing the running game so much on this show. 2 stats I want to run by you as well. Through the first 2 weeks of last season, 250 yards on the ground, only 114 yards on the ground through the first 2 weeks of this season. So a huge discrepancy there when the Steelers finished last in the NFL in rushing. But what might be more importantly than this, Ike, we always talk about how the Steelers need to establish the ground game. I went back and did some research. The last time the Steelers ran the ball more than they passed it in a game, you've got to go back to October the 8th of 2020, week 6 of last season. And when the Steelers did that, they absolutely walloped the Cleveland Browns 38-7. It's been that long since they've run the ball more than they've passed it in a game. Big Ben in year 18, why are they putting so much of the onus and pressure on him offensively? Let's commit to running the ball. And if it doesn't work after we run the ball 40, 45 times in a game, and you're still only getting 2 or 3 yards per carry, then I could say we have a problem. But if we haven't committed to it, and again, I go back to, again, week 6 of last season, to me, that was a telltale sign of some of the struggles this offense has had because it's much, much too pass happy. And that's part of the reason why you bring in Matt Canada to replace Randy Fichtner as the offensive coordinator. It's something I would like to see change moving forward with this Steelers team.
See, I've been saying this for years. It don't matter who your offensive coordinator is. Ben is in his 18th season. He's going to trump every call if he wants to. I don't think – so I heard – so Tampa played Dallas, and it was a shootout when it came down to the throwing. And everybody was like, why they didn't run Zeke as much. And the offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys said, I called 28 run plays. Dak checked out of 10 of them. Same thing with Big Ben. If you call 38 run plays and he checks out 12 of them, then it's going to be an issue. And that's what I've been saying for years. I don't care who the OC is. If 7 want to throw the ball, he's going to throw the ball. That's just what it is. Now, if you look at what the Green Bay Packers did against the Detroit Lions, they ran the ball. And the more they kept running the ball, instead of doing the cover 2, the Detroit Lions had to go down to a cover 3 now, or man coverage. Now that leaves your corners on the island. But you had to get to that point to leave your corners on the island by running the ball. And that's what I've been saying about the Pittsburgh Steelers. 7 has to, you know what? I'm going to the Hall of Fame. But I still remember this is how I went to Super Bowls and won Super Bowls. I do have a good Super Bowl defense. I truly do believe Pittsburgh has a good defense that can help them win a Super Bowl. But you have to mix in the running game. So when you have a Jerome Bettis, when you have a Willie Parker, when you have who else we had? A Deuce Staley. When you have guys like this who can run the ball and control the clock, that's what you want to do. You got a guy like a Najee who can control the clock. Even though you got a young O-line, what have I been saying about young offensive linemen? You let the guys get in the rhythm of run blocking. So your running back can get in the rhythm of running the ball. So, and that's what I said on our show Monday, I said the only thing I disliked was we started off like the first 3-4 plays passing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
How in the hell are we going to establish the ball? So me, my personal opinion, Ben got to get his mindset or reset his mind into, hey, if Coach Matt Canada wants me to run the ball and establish a run game, this is what I'm going to have to do. If not, he's going to forever trouble.
And if the Steelers commit to running the ball, I'm just telling you this right now, Ike, watch what happens in terms of the scoreboard, in terms of controlling the clock. And why is that important? Why is that important?
The reason why running the ball is so important, one, you take the soul out of the defense. 2, you control the clock. 3, it opens up the big plays that you're looking for in the play action pass, because then you get a lot of one-on-ones and mismatches with the corners and the receivers that you have. That's what running the ball does. When you're getting the ball out 2.4 seconds, right now the fastest time in the league, basically as a corner, I'm going to sit on every route because I know the ball is coming out quick. So I'm not worrying about deep routes. The only time I'm worrying about deep routes, if I see 2 backs in the backfield or if I see 2 tight ends on the field. That's how I know you're looking for the pass protection. But other than that, if you got 3-4 receivers out, I know the ball got to come out quick, because if I look at my game sheet and Coach LeBeau comes into the thing like Ben is getting the ball out 2.4 seconds, first thing I'm thinking is they're going 3 or 4 wide and they don't trust the offensive line right now. That's how you look at it from a defensive standpoint.
And I can't help but think that there's a correlation in losing the time of possession in the first 2 weeks of the season. And you see injuries all along the defense. I'm talking about TJ Watt and his groin injury, whether that has any impact beyond week 2. I'm talking about Alex Highsmith as a groin injury. Joe Hayden and Devin Bush didn't play against the Raiders. They also have groin injuries. Tyson Alualu is out for the season with a fractured ankle. He had surgery on Monday. I can't help but think that you have some of those defensive injuries because you're keeping the defense out on the field longer because you're not controlling time of possession. So again, I know it's only a 2-game sample size, and right now I'm not going to say it's a causation. I'll say it's a correlation. But if this is going to continue to be a theme, then you could say, well, the Steelers struggle with running the football. How about getting closer to that 50-50 split between running and passing? Or how about running the ball more than passing it in a game, even if early on in the first and second quarters, I know it's hot out and it's easier for defenses to tackle than it would be later in the season when it gets cold out. But how about saying, okay, if you run the ball 40 times in a game, are you still struggling to control the line of scrimmage? Because defenses wear down when they're out on the field longer in the third and fourth quarters. And again, week 6 of last season, I'm going to keep banging this drum, Mike, because I did the research on it. October 8th, 2020 is the last time the Steelers ran the ball more in a game, more than they passed it. And Big Ben's in year 18. It's not like he's a spring chicken anymore, Ike. It's not like he's in the prime of his career and he can completely dissect a defense, because we have not seen that through the first 2 weeks of the season. This offense has to get better if this team wants to have any kind of success this season, because like you said it, Steelers have a pretty good defense.
As the Baltimore Ravens, if they like Lamar Jackson, because they lead the league in rushing pretty much every year. As the Cleveland Browns defense, if they like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, because they're probably top 3 in rushing every year. As the Tennessee Titans, because their defense is so-so, if they like King Henry getting the ball in the second game and they wind up winning that game in Seattle last week. So that's what I'm saying. And you can even ask in the playoffs. In the playoffs, as Tampa Bay and their defense, if they like playoff P, Leonard Fournette getting the ball hand off to him. And if you want to talk about the Super Bowl that the Kansas City Chiefs won, ask the defense if they run a game in that Super Bowl. And that's just been the recipe. When you have a good running game, man, your defense also, it loves it, but it gives us a breather, and it takes the soul out of other teams because we feel the same way. If a team that runs on us and is having success on us, man, that's not a good feeling. You know what I'm saying? And when I was playing, it was Jamal Lewis, it was Corey Dillon. Who else we had? Jamal Lewis, Corey Dillon,
Sean Alexander in the Super Bowl.
Alexander, Anderson coming from Denver. Who else we played? Basically, in that playoff, when we won the Super Bowl in 2005, we played the top 5 offenses. Edgerrin James with the Colts. So it was Edgerrin James.
Hall of Famer Edgerrin James, too, I might add.
Corey Dillon was a grown man. I mean, Corey Dillon, when Corey Dillon saw a DB or a corner, he said, "Come here, boy," while he was running, because he already knew what he was going to do to you. You know what I'm saying? So you had a Jamal Lewis and his prime coming from Tennessee. You know about Jamal Lewis. Man, we had Rudy Johnson coming from Auburn and Cincinnati. So, man, we played, Sean Alexander from Alabama. So we played nothing but dogs when it came down to the playoffs. But the reason why I'm saying this, everybody had a run game. I'm naming the top 5 offenses at the time in 2005. But you got a Hall of Fame, Edgerrin James. You got a dog of Sean Alexander. You already know what Jamal Lewis was doing with the Ravens. Then you got Rudy Johnson, who was a stud, and Corey Dillon at the same time for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, all 4 of them in the Denver Broncos had Jake Plummer, Jake the Snake. We used to call him Jake the Snake, and that zone running scheme. So we played against the top 5 offenses, and all top 5 guys had a running back or a running game. And that's what Pittsburgh, like I'm reading on this screen right now, coming from Miss Courtney, you got to commit to the run game. That's what you have to do.
Yep. Averaging on first down only 4 yards per play for the first 2 games, Ike. That's tied for the 29th worst in the NFL. You don't get yards on first down, you put yourself in a worse situation on second and third down. Now, the Steelers have only spent $12 million along that offensive line, which is the lowest in the NFL. And you mentioned some of those teams that can run the football, Ike. Tampa Bay, $50 million. Excuse me. The Cleveland Browns, $50 million. Tampa Bay at $36 million. The Ravens double what the Steelers spend along the offensive line, but they'll get better if you commit to the running game, which is so important. And a player I want to see on the offensive side of the ball more often is Derek Watt, Ike, because I know he contributes on special teams, but when he's only played 4 offensive snaps out of a total of 114, you talk about getting Najee Harris going as a rookie. Have a fullback out there to help clear the way for him. And then that also helps establish the running game. And it's like, again, it's not even just establishing the running game. It's committing to it, even if you don't have initial success with it. I'm a broken record here, but the Bengals present a great opportunity to do that this season because of their defensive struggles a year ago. Last season, the Bengals 28th in rushing defense, 148 rushing yards per game opposing teams put up against them. They had a bad defense in 2020. So if you're my point is this, it would be a great week to start to do that against your divisional opponent, a team that's still on the up and up with Joe Burrow in year 2, because listen, the Bengals lines on both sides of the ball are nothing to write home about.
I mean, we got to use the Pittsburgh Steelers got to marry the run game. They have to marry the run game. If not, it's going to be a long year for them. So, and that's to help their defensive guys out. And you got guys on defense. I mean, they got 5 starters who are out because of injuries. You got 3 growing injuries. You know what I'm saying? So Joe Hayden is long in the tooth. He's a seasoned veteran guy. So you got to monitor him right now. You got to keep him off the field as much as possible. Devin Bush is just coming off a season-ending injury last year, so you got to make sure he's back. So you got to monitor his reps. TJ didn't go through training camp, so you got to understand with TJ Watt, this is like training camp with him, but he's actually playing the games. Highsmith went through training camp, so I ain't no telling how many reps he got because he was going on both sides when it comes down to Pittsburgh Steelers defense. So, he was getting a lot of mileage on his car in training camp, just working and trying to make the team. So you just got guys. And Tua, he just got a season in the injury, and he just had surgery a couple of days ago. So the Pittsburgh Steelers got to be careful in how you help a defense is by running the ball, controlling the clock. And like we said, man, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have to marry the run game.
And I hope when Zach Banner comes back, you can put Chuks Okorafor on the bench, let Dan Moore continue to develop on that left side. That helps stabilizes things. Banner might be back in week 4 against Green Bay. We'll see. That's optimistic mark out here on the Bleav in Steelers podcast today. I want to throw a couple of other stats out there to back my point about the Bengals lines not being stellar. Dead last in the NFL on sacks in the 2020 season, only 17 for the entire team. Put that in perspective, TJ Watt had 15 alone in the 2020 season. And the Steelers led the league in sacks last season with 56. So, again, you talk about the struggles of the Bengals line. Burrow sacked 9 times through 2 games this season. And Ike, it leads me to believe, I know one of the keys is going to be stopping Joe Burrow's LSU buddy, Jamar Chase. But I can't help but wonder, do the Bengals wish they had drafted Penei Sewell out of Oregon instead of Jamar Chase, just because you've got to be able to protect your investment? Joe Burrow, the former first overall pick, coming off a season-ending knee injury a year ago. So that's already a question that I have in my mind. Yeah, you might make Burrow happy in the short term, but long term, I still don't think they have the personnel up front to be able to protect him properly. Again, 9 sacks through 2 games thus far this season.
So you got to look at personnel versus personnel. So you got to look at the 3 receivers they got. You know, you got a first and second round of T. Higgins coming from Clemson. Then you got Tyler Boyd, who came from Pittsburgh. He's a stud in the slot. Then you just picked up Jamar Chase, another first-round draft pick. So now you got to look at the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive side. You don't know if Joe Hayden's going to be back this year. He's a veteran guy. He has to grow. Then you got to look at, Cam Sutton and see what he's doing. He's outside at first starter, and then he's inside in the slot. So if I'm the Bengals and I'm looking at it coming from a passing standpoint, I like my receivers over the Pittsburgh Steelers defense and secondary guys. That's just how I'm thinking if I'm the Cincinnati Bengals. So, yeah, I get what you're saying, but then again, man, we can just go to Joe Burrow and we're going to be like, the game plan for us against the Pittsburgh Steelers is doing what Big Ben has been doing for the last 2 years. We're going to get the ball out in 2.4 seconds and get the ball in my guys' hands and see if they can make some plays against these, Pittsburgh Steelers secondary. So that's just what it is. That's how I look at it. You can't forget about Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, when healthy, he's a damn horse. You know what I'm saying? Come from Oklahoma. So that's how I look at it. So if I'm Cincinnati, I'm sure they might feel this a shootout, especially if Big Ben is handicapped going into the game. But if they're looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers secondary and they're looking at what they have on the offensive side as far as like the wide receivers, they like it, they matchups better.
Ike, you read through all of my notes. One thing I would add, Jamar Chase, 7 receptions, 22 yards per reception. So he is a playmaker on the outside, no doubt there. Ike, it is also the Mike Hilton revenge game. The Nickelback, former Steelers player, now a member of the Cincinnati Bengals, and he signed a 4-year deal worth $24 million. I'm happy to see that he got paid, given his playmaking abilities for the Steelers for the last several years.
He's snitching all day. He letting them know the whole playbook, because I know if I was in his shoes, I would as well. So, man, when we get on the field and I see these signals and I see how they want to control the offensive line and shift to whoever the mic is, who goes in motion, who don't go in motion, personnels. Man, if I'm Mike Hilton, because I was a fan, matter of fact, I got Mike Hilton started. They didn't want to start Mike Hilton until I came and I sat down with Kevin Colbert. And I said, man, who is this little guy who keep making these damn plays all the time he's on the field? Oh, well, he's too short. I said, man, this guy's a damn football player. Little do you know, Mike Hilton wound up being one of the Pittsburgh Steelers from a secondary standpoint. Best blitzers. He wound up getting some cheese going to Cincinnati. So happy for Mike Hilton because he's been one of my favorites. But, yeah, if I'm him, I'm telling the Cincinnati Bengals everything with Pittsburgh do when it comes down to personnel.
This makes me nervous, Ike. This makes me nervous where he's got the inside intel. He's almost like a double agent at this point.
100%.
Still looking for his first sack and first interception of the season. He does have 2 TFLs as a member of the Cincinnati Bengals, and that still just kind of breaks my heart. Like last season, Ike, we came on this show, we were saying how we thought he was a Pro Bowl player. He's one of the best defensive players for the Steelers last season.
Yeah, that's how I felt about Mike, man. I felt like Mike was just a Steeler, take the size out of it. He's not a honey badger, not even close to being a honey badger. But at the same time, when you want to talk about just having a big heart, regardless on the statue, That was Mike Hilton. You know, when you look at it from a defense coordinator, you got a guy who plays the nickel or the dime position, but he can also rush and make tackles like an outside or inside linebacker. Man, there you go. So you just can't have it all. You know, between the Honey Badger, he can rush and he can cover. If you want to look at Mike and some of his strength, man, it was more getting sacks and blitzing and getting to the quarterback. You know what I'm saying? So they picked and choose when they wanted him in coverage. So that's just how it is. But yeah, man, I'm a huge fan of Mike Hilton, and I know for sure he's giving all the info to the Cincinnati Bengals on what the Pittsburgh Steelers like to do on the offensive side.
When you go into Kevin Colbert's offense, they tell you he's too short. What else happens in that conversation? I know you probably said some of the same things you just told me, but what's that interaction like?
Some of the scouts was, they looked at his height. And, once they look at his height, I get in my feelings and I tell some of the people, this is why y'all don't know football and this is why I won 2 Super Bowls, and y'all got to understand us as players, we're actually GMs. Like, we know who's good and who's not good. But since you want to sit around and look at height, size, and speed and measure my hands and my arm length, I get it. But I'm actually looking at how this guy can help the team. That's what I'm looking at. So, lo and behold, they wound up putting Mike Hilton in the ball game, and now he just signed a $24 million contract. So happy for him.
Okay, Ike, around the league, a few other week 3 matchups before we get into our score predictions for Bengals and Steelers. 2 premier games. You've got Chargers, Chiefs, an AFC West division matchup that's going to be in Kansas City. And I got to say this, Ike, as much as I like that Kansas City Chiefs offense, that defense is a little bit suspect to me. Now, I know the Chiefs played the Browns and the Ravens in the first 2 weeks of the season, 2 playoff teams from a year ago, but they really needed Honey Badger back. He forced a few turnovers on that Sunday night thriller against the Ravens, but the Ravens, as decimated as they are from an injury standpoint, still able to pull out the victory. I know the Ravens were at home as well, but that Kansas City Chiefs defense, to me, is going to be a huge question mark going forward in this season. And how much can you rely upon Patrick Mahomes and company from an offensive standpoint to bail you out? I think that's a huge question mark for Kansas City moving forward.
Yeah, I still probably have the Chiefs winning. And the reason why I have the Chiefs winning is because I don't think the Chargers will stick to their running game. I do think the Chargers have a nice running game. But if the Chargers do win, the Chargers will win, 1, because they stuck to their running game, 2, because the Kansas City Chiefs can't stop the run. But this has always been the Kansas City Chiefs. If you just look at the personnel for the Kansas City Chiefs on defense, they figure they always going to be ahead because they got Patrick Mahomes, so we can always rush the passer. So you get guys who like to rush the passer. When it comes down to the run, stopping the run, they've been dead last for like the past 3 years. Top from 28 all the way down. When it came down to stopping the run, that's just what it is, because everybody trying to play keep up or catch up with the offense, so they got to pass a lot. But when you got 2 teams, and it was the Cleveland Browns did the same thing. They could have won last year in the playoffs, but they didn't. I felt like the stage was too big for them, and that's why they wound up playing the Cleveland Browns again. They should have won it. They missed out on opportunities. Now you go to a depleted Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens, they just go run the ball all the time, and that's exactly what they do. But now it's 11 on 11. And what I mean by 11 on 11, my quarterback can also be a running back. So you see, as a defensive coordinator, you look at it 10 on 11. When you got a Tom Brady, you ain't looking for Tom Brady to make no runs. You ain't looking for Tom Brady to break no 30, 40-yard gains. You ain't looking for no Peyton Manning to break no 30 to 20-yard gains when it comes down to the running game. So now it's a true 10 on 11. But when you got a Mike Vick, when you got a Lamar Jackson, when you got a Kyler Murray, when you got a Russell Wilson, when you got guys who can run as well as pass, it becomes a true 11 on 11, So, but they stuck to Baltimore Ravens, I'm talking about. They stuck to their game plan. The only way the LA Chargers will beat the Chiefs if they stick to their running game. I hope they don't get in a shootout or want to get in a shootout. I hope they just see what the Baltimore Ravens did. They stuck to their run game even when they was down. They made the plays they needed to make on defense because in the secondary standpoint, the LA Chargers, they got some nice guys on that secondary. You know what I'm saying? Bosa is back coming off his injury. They got some guys on that D-line, too, that can also get to the quarterback. Now it has to be, I have to make Patrick Mahomes start rolling left and throw the ball. That's what these teams got to start coming up with, because when he gets outside the pocket and he extends plays and when he runs right, that's when a lot of good happens for the Chiefs, a lot of bad happens for opposing defenses. So if I'm a defensive coordinator, man, I will make sure that Patrick Mahomes won't be rolling right to extend plays. He will be rolling left to extend them plays.
Interesting analysis there, I've never really even thought about that. And I know Mahomes, son of a former professional Major League Baseball player, is known throughout the league for all the different arm angles that he can throw the ball, but certainly a lot easier to do as a right-handed quarterback rolling to the right than it would be a left throwing across his body, even as talented as he is. You mentioned Tom Brady, and the Bucs and Brady head out to SoFi Stadium this weekend taking on the Rams. This to me might be like an NFC Championship preview. Like, I think it would be safe to say this, Ike. One of these two teams will be in the NFC Championship later this season. I don't know which of the two, but this to me also represents, and I've got to pull up the lines here, maybe one of the last times that the Buccaneers would be considered an underdog for the remainder of the 2021 season. But I cannot wait to watch this because we know what the Rams can do defensively and all the weapons that Tom Brady has offensively and what he's doing at age 44. I feel like we talk about Tom Brady, if not every show, like every other show, where it's just like at this point, it's just what he's doing is absolutely incredible.
Oh, man, the LA Rams have some good corners. From a safety standpoint, who's going to stop Gronk? And that's how you got to look at it. Man, you got Godwin, you got AB, and you got Mike Evans. And we still, and then there's Gronk, so it's Joel Embiid, so that's Mike Evans. Then you got AB to Kyrie Irving. Then you got Godwell, he's like a Bradley Bill. And then you got Sasquatch, who is Gronk. So it's like, who the hell gonna check him? You know what I'm saying? So, Tom Brady pretty much got everything at his disposal, so to say. So, man, I get it. We like the LA Rams defense, and I do agree with you down the line. They're gonna wind up seeing each other again because of Matthew Stafford and his arm strength and, him finally getting in the rhythm with the offense, so to say. And I love the LA Rams defense. But goddamn it, Tom Brady, he got some weapons, bro. Yep. So it's just going to be tough, especially when you got Sasquatch sitting right on his hip.
The Buccaneers are actually favored by 1.5 on the road. This to me is like I want to see Chiefs and Chargers, but this Bucs-Rams game is to me like, other than the Steelers-Bengals, the one I'm going to be watching this weekend. All right, Ike, time for score predictions. Bengals at Steelers. The Steelers, to me, absolutely need this game, and I know that every week is a must-win game, but you've got Green Bay in week 4. They looked a lot better, the Packers did, in week 2 after absolutely getting walloped by the Saints in week 1. And you're talking about a Packers team that was in the NFC Championship a year ago. The Steelers favored in this game over the Bengals by 4.5 points. I've got them covering, and I've got the Steelers 24, Bengals 17. What say you, Ike Taylor?
Bengals 24, Steelers 21.
Wow. Explain your rationale there.
I just think from an offensive standpoint, and the depleted defense and Ben's injury, it will affect the layout of the game. So I'm gonna go with the Cincinnati Bengals on this one. I know everybody's gonna be mad at me, but who cares?
Well, listen, Ike, you're being real, you're being authentic, you're being genuine, and honestly, that would be more of a disservice to our listeners and viewers than if you weren't. But I think the Steelers, again, I'm just looking ahead on the schedule. I know that the players of the team shouldn't do this, but if you lose this week, Ike, I'm looking at that week 4 matchup on the road in Green Bay at Lambeau Field. You lose in listen, you lose in week 3, you're talking about starting the season possibly 1-3 if you go into Lambeau. It's just a tough place to play given the home field advantage there. So that's why I've got the Steelers winning.
But I feel like that matchup is better because also the running defense for the Packers isn't a good defense. I think they're dead last. They might be second or third dead last when it comes down to stopping the run. So I feel like that matchup might be better for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they marry the run, so say. So that's what it is with them. But with the Bengals, man, it's just that divisional games are always tough, regardless of what the record is for whoever you're playing in a divisional game. So, yeah, and they're at home. Cincinnati Bengals at home. So I kind of like where the Cincinnati Bengals are headed. I don't like the injuries that the Pittsburgh Steelers have on defense, let alone, 7. So that's why I'm going 24-21 to Cincinnati.
I checked that. I want to make sure you know this. The Steelers are playing at Heinz Field this weekend against the Bengals.
I'm sorry. It don't matter. I still have them losing 24-21.
Okay. You heard it here first. I feel like we're going to put this clip out on social media, Ike, and you're going to hear from it. But again, you go back to, we got to be real. We got to be genuine. We got to be authentic. Each AFC North team through 2 weeks of the season at 1-1. A lot of parity in this division that saw 3 playoff teams a season ago. Ike, as we wrap up here, 2 things to mention. The Steelers signed 2017 first-round defensive end Taco Charlton to the practice squad, the second first-round draft pick on the practice squad now because they've got safety Carl Joseph. And then your former teammate, Ike, James Harrison, is going to be profiled on A Football Life. That's at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Friday night on the NFL Network. I saw a preview clip for that. Looks absolutely fantastic. So just 2 notes that Steelers fans should know about before we sign off here.
Yeah, Debo, a.k.a. James Harrison, that's going to be a good one. I got a nice little preview before it came out. So I think the world will enjoy who Debo actually is. I know he's a strong, mammoth-ass man, so say. Well, he also has a good heart and he's a good dude. It's just the way he looks. It looks very scary, so I can see why people might be afraid of him. But he's just a good dude, honest dude, 100% honest dude. But yeah, I think the world will enjoy this on Friday on the NFL Network.
I can't wait to watch. Strong is like an understatement for James Harrison too. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, look at his Instagram. He's not human. That's why I said mammoth. Mammoth is going to the dinosaur, the prehistoric days, and all them animals was big and strong. Ike, a lot of shout outs are in order. I want to thank you. I want to thank the Bleav Podcast Network, the folks over at Brinks TV, led by John Brinkus, Courtney Vargas, and our guy Herbert behind the scenes. I want to thank our sponsors as well, Bet Online, Balance 7, and Play Action Pools. Ike, we forgot the Play Action Pools ad read. So really quickly, I'll let our listeners know about this here at the end of the pod. PlayActionPools.com, look for the Bleav Football Pick'em, and they pick the 10 highest profile games between college and the NFL. Again, PlayActionPools.com, Bleav Football Pick'em, that's BLEAV. It's a way our listeners and viewers can interact with us, making picks each week on both college football and the NFL.
Yeah, so shout out to BetOnline AG. Shout out to Brinks TV, Miss Courtney and staff. Shout out to Balance 7, always keeping my body right 7 days out of the week. And a huge shout out to Play Action Pool. So just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Major shout out to the Bleav in Steelers podcast. Shout out to Mark and Drew as well, bro. So make sure y'all give us 5 stars, man. That's just how y'all like these good hotels and good foods that y'all eat. Y'all go in the 5-star restaurants. So give us nice rate and reviews. We will keep entertaining and educating y'all with the Bleav in Steelers podcast all day, every day, 24/7.
Ike, on Monday, we're going to have our recap of the Week 3 matchup between the Bengals and the Steelers. You won't want to miss the Taylor Talk. Ike breaking down at least one play from the game, getting the X's and O's. It was a really popular segment when we did that this last week. So we'll have that again for our viewers and listeners next week as well. I'll go ahead and sign off here. For Ike Taylor, I'm Mark Bergin. Thank you for listening to the Bleav in Steelers podcast. We'll see you next week. Take care, and so long, everybody.
Peace.